Mick Schumacher, one of the grid favourites, has finally received some good news after his one-off appearance for Mercedes. This could be the start of a big turnaround for the offspring of one of the all-time greats of the sport, Michael Schumacher. Although it was simply a Pirelli tyre test, Mick Schumacher described his first on-track appearance as a Mercedes Formula 1 reserve driver as epic. And epic could just be what Mick needed to show the grid his worth. Could we see the young German back in the car next year? It's great now, being really embedded in the team, having driven the car, knowing what it's all about, he added. This year, Schumacher has been a noticeable presence in the Mercedes garage during Grand Prix. The official Mercedes reserve was called in for Pirelli's second day of testing in Barcelona on Wednesday, as work on assessing tyres that are not heated by blankets continues. The run was Schumacher's first opportunity to drive the W14 since joining the German company, and he completed 152 laps over the course of the day. He made a good impression on the team with his professionalism after being dropped from Haas's race lineup for 2023 after 2 years in favour of Nico Hülkenberg, and he has lived up to it, with team principal Toto Wolff saying this week that he has done a great job with the team so far, working hard back in the simulator and giving valuable input trackside. That isn't merely a platitude from the boss. Last Friday, during the Spanish Grand Prix practice, a struggling Lewis Hamilton was worried he wouldn't reach Q3. He not only accomplished so, but he also had his best competitive performance of the year, finishing second. A setup tweak stemming from Schumacher's simulator session on Friday night was critical in turning around Mercedes' greatest weekend of 2023's thus far. A useful, behind-the-scenes contribution is fine, but Schumacher is only 24 years old. A Formula 3 and Formula 2 champion and the son of a legend, his F1 racing career has so far consisted of blitzing an unimpressive fellow rookie teammate in a very bad car for 1 year, then crashing a lot and getting dropped when matched against a more experienced rival in year 2. He does not want the narrative to end in this manner. Joining Mercedes was not only about keeping a foot in F1, but also about finding a way back onto the grid. The most obvious immediate prospect is a stand-in appearance, especially considering how Mercedes-powered teams pull reserves. Last year, Nick de Vries was ostensibly a Mercedes test driver, who ended up racing for Williams and being poised for a McLaren outing when Lando Norris fell ill before the Brazilian GP. Though his so far poor AlphaTauri season means de Vries isn't an excellent marketing tool for giving a driver a full-time chance, based on an admittedly brilliant super sub appearance somewhere. Mercedes bypassed designated reserve Stoffel van Dorn in favour of bringing in George Russell from Williams for what turned out to be a thrilling Bahrain 2020 test. Schumacher is not in danger of being missed in the same way. There is no one in the Mercedes junior pipeline who would be a better option as a Grand Prix sub than him, and the team has made it plain that he would be the one called up if Russell or Lewis Hamilton were unavailable. The same is likely to apply to Mercedes customer teams McLaren, which has already stated that it could call on Schumacher, and Williams, but not to fellow Mercedes engine runner Aston Martin, which has reigning F2 champion Felipe Drugovich on hand, and would have used him for the Bahrain GP if Lance Stroll had not been fit enough following his cycling incident. Aside from bench duty, Schumacher faces mainly closed doors in 2024. Hamilton is almost set to stay, and while Schumacher is gaining Mercedes' respect, he's a long way from being a clear go-to replacement for a 7-time world champion if there was a last-minute contract talk bombshell. Assuming the Mercedes family is his best hope, the doors to McLaren and Aston Martin are also blocked for the time being because their drivers are under contract through next year. Last year, Williams was mentioned as a possible 2023 seat for Schumacher, as well as his best chance to impress a potential 2024 employer. But that was contingent on Alex Albon being signed by a more competitive team, or Logan Sargent, underperforming to the point where he was only given 1 year. Now, neither possibility appears reasonable. There was also the possibility that Schumacher might plan forward and position himself as a perfect contender for an Audi seat in 2026. However, as Ferrari and McLaren stumble, the risk of joining a major manufacturer for an F1 debut it has had plenty of lead time on will appear appealing to ambitious, established or potential race winners who feel they've ended up treading water at the big teams they committed to. As a result, Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz have been mentioned as Audi candidates. Schumacher may find the queue for an Audi opportunity becoming very long. Given how many top drivers are on long contracts, F1's driver market appears to have the potential to be stagnant for a year or two, before going crazy as some bets are placed on the best places to be, a few old hands exit, and the grid reshapes itself around a new manufacturer lineup. As much as he's impressing Mercedes, Schumacher must be concerned about being out of sight, out of mind to everyone else, and being stuck there for an extended period, given the expected scarcity of options to modify that scenario. "I'm very excited for the rest of the year," said Schumacher after Wednesday's Mercedes test. "I've had a great time today, and hopefully I'll be back in a car at some point. I loved every bit of it." It's no surprise that he appreciated it, especially given how close the test was to Mercedes' huge performance step. But it's also a good thing that he's keeping his expectations for the next time he'll drive an F1 car on track vague and non-committal. Next to being happy about it, Mick Schumacher believes that his maiden excursion in Mercedes' 2023 Formula 1 car this week will help him perform better in the simulator this year. Schumacher believes he can push things up even further now that he understands how the Mercedes car works in real life, after receiving high praise from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell for his simulator contribution at last weekend's Spanish Grand Prix weekend. "This experience will definitely benefit me in my role," explained Schumacher. "I have a better understanding of what to look out for and what to work on. I also have a better understanding of all the procedures and how the team works trackside. That would be a key factor in case I ever have to jump in and race." Although Schumacher stated that there were still disparities between the simulator and the real car, he stated that the connection was coming closer as he applauded Mercedes' work. "There is obviously a difference between a simulator and driving in the real world," he said. "There will always be a difference as the technology is not at a point where you can compare it 100%. However, it is the closest experience I've had between a simulator and real life. The simulator has prepared me, and the team has made a great effort of correlating it. It helped me to know what to expect when driving it. It's clear why this team is an 8-time world champion. And being a more complete driver in the simulator will result in better setups for Lewis and George during Grand Prix weekends. Could Mick become an essential part of Mercedes' upcoming success? Even if it's just as a reserve and simulator driver. And could these performances tempt other teams like Williams to bring the young German on board? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to see Schumacher back on the grid, but we do think it'll be his last chance to prove what he's worth, so it'll be make or break. For now, Mercedes has set their eyes on the next race, as Mercedes surpassed Aston Martin to second place in the constructors' standings because of the double podium. However, Chauvelin, the team's trackside engineering director, anticipates a more difficult weekend for the Silver Arrows due to the low downforce nature of Montreal's circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which is the opposite of the Barcelona circuit, where its revamped 2023 car was competitive. The fact is that the update kit works very well around circuits like Barcelona, with a lot of high-speed performance, Chauvelin said after the race in a post-race press conference on Wednesday. "We've been better at the fast circuits and the front-limited tracks. We ended up with a really good balance and really good race pace. Now, where we are going to next week, Montreal, it's a very different circuit. There are more low-speed corners, quite a lot of straight-line full throttle, and we would expect more of a challenge there. We're not thinking that we're going to be in nipping at the heels of Red Bull. We are aware that Canada is likely to be a bigger challenge than the Sunday we just had in Barcelona. Mercedes, according to Chauvelin, will slip back into the clutches of the pursuing pack behind Red Bull, which includes Aston Martin and Ferrari. Alpine, he feels, will also join the club, considering Esteban Ocon's recent podium in Monaco. We're thinking it'll be more along the lines of some of the earlier races, where we were definitely in the bunch with Ferrari, with Aston, and now Alpine look to have joined that group," he explained. "But it's great racing there. It'll be good fun, and we're certainly going to be fighting to find every little bit of performance we can. The way the grid stacks up now, you can be P2 or you can be P10, and there are only a few temps in it. What do you think? Will they be able to challenge for a spot on the podium again in Canada? Hopefully they will, as the Spanish Grand Prix, except for first place, was a good race from a spectator viewpoint. Hopefully this trend will continue and we'll be in for some exciting racing this season. We'll have to wait and see, but we're excited. Are you excited as well? Let us know in the comments and we'll see you in the next video.